Welcome to season 14 of the Parenting Aces podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Stone. This week, we are talking about a new tennis app called TennisIQ. And with me will be the creators of the app, two friends that have known each other since grade school, wanted to go into business together, both love tennis, and both wanted to solve a problem in the tennis space. So Alli and Jaime Sullivan got together, put their heads together, utilized their strengths, and developed the Tennis IQ app. I am really excited for you guys to take a look at it. Make sure you check the show notes because they have offered a really, really nice discount to the Parenting Aces community. And this is something that is going to benefit your child. It could benefit your child's coach. It could benefit you as the parent. So sit back, relax, enjoy my conversation with Jaime and Alli of Tennis IQ. Jaime and Alli, it's so nice to get y'all on the podcast finally. This has been in the works for several weeks now, and I'm so happy we could finally make it happen. And thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We love what you do, and this fits so nicely in our world. So it's nice to have a comrade.
Yes. Yeah, actually, the way we got together was somebody that we both know put us in contact with each other, and this is kind of how it works in tennis, right? And I talk about this all the time. Everybody knows everybody. It is a very small world. Don't make anybody mad because it will come back to bite you, and all the friendships that you make somehow will kind of coalesce at some point and open even more doors. And that's what I love about what I do. And you guys are a little newer on the scene, but I'm sure you're already seeing that kind of thing kind of flesh out for you.
Yes, for sure. Even we popped to the US Open, the Miami Open, and there was just so much camaraderie and everybody knew everybody. So it was a fun group.
Yeah.
And social media, we connect with people all over the world, and you do see the same faces over and over again. I'm like, oh wow, this is a smaller, small, good community so that's fun.
Yeah. I met this gentleman when I was at the Ojai a few weeks ago, and he, we thought we were meeting each other for the first time, which we were in person. And later that day, he texted me, he says, actually, we've been connected on Facebook for like 15 years.
You're friends.
Yeah, we're friends. Now we are in person too, in real life.
I love that.
So let's jump in. I want to, before we start talking about Tennis IQ, which is the crux of our conversation today, I wanted to ask you guys to give our audience a little bit of your story, how you got started in tennis, how you came together to go into business, and then we'll kind of jump into the specifics of Tennis IQ and how it pertains to the Parenting Aces community. And Jaime, let's start with you.
Sure, thanks. So Alli and I grew up in the same town basically, and we went to the same high school. Alli's a couple years younger, but we grew up together in the same area, very small town, south of Boston, Massachusetts. And we had just realized through growing up, we had so much in common, but one of the biggest things that tied us together is that we've always been super passionate about health and wellness and fitness. And so that was a bond that we had. And so we would, do things together in that realm. And then I ended up getting into tennis as an adult. So I didn't really get to play sports when I was younger. I was the oldest in my family, and I took a lot of the role of driving my younger siblings to their sports. But as a team player, though, always. And as I got into the adulthood, I really wanted to do something. I knew I was athletic, and I knew that I wanted to be a part of something outside of just working out in the gym, with my gym buddies. And so I decided to get into tennis mainly because, let's be honest, the outfits are really cute. And I thought, well, how do I get to wear those cute outfits? And so I started taking lessons for a few years, actually, before I had the confidence to actually play with people. And it has been a life-changing experience. I have countless people I have turned on to tennis as adults. My children now, we all play, and then I actually got Alli into playing because she has a volleyball background, but being a natural athlete and seeing tennis, she wanted to jump right in. So we've enjoyed developing a tennis community, and which eventually brought into this app because I wanted to get into a business and thought, who am I aligned with in, you know, my heart, my soul, somebody that I know that I'm, you know, get along with well, that have the same, you know, morals and values and mindset. And Alli was a natural fit. So, and she's just really brilliant in the business world. So I'll let her go from
I'm
there.
gonna give her $5 for all of that after. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun with this. My background is all health and wellness. I think I played every sport in the world minus racket sports growing up because my dad was the coach of every sport. And we didn't have racket sports at our elementary, so that never was one I played. But I gravitated towards and played in college volleyball. And so while we started playing adult tennis, and this really did start, I have to say, because you'll see my competitiveness. My birthday every year, I visit Jamie out on the vineyard, and we have this club out there, and they have this competition. And I think every year I've won queen of the court to everyone else's dismay because I didn't play a lot of tennis. It was more the competitive drills, right? It wasn't.
Well, she's really good at spiking the ball at the net because of volleyball.
So I do like the overheads. So of course, anything you're good at, you tend to gravitate towards. And you know, that's where mindset gets big in this entire athletic mind community. But we were laughing because at one point, Jamie said, "Hey, my kids, I'm almost empty nesting. I really want to do a business. I want to solve a problem. And I really want to work with you." And I said, "All right, what can we do in the health and wellness world?" Because I already have a couple of businesses in the health and wellness world. And you'll see as the podcast goes on, the science nerd in me will come out very quickly, where if we have a problem, I love solving it through either mental or physical health. Our body, it's amazing what our body can do. So we started seeing what kind of the bigger challenges were in tennis. And it just so happened to be mindset was kind of number one when we looked not only at our kids, but junior players and adults. We truly were like, we need to remember our competitors better. We need to stop everything we're thinking about from work, from school, from the kids, from everything else, because then you just step on the court and you're supposed to just go, right? Without kind of getting that mental prep. So it was a really cool culmination. We didn't think it would be as amazing as what turned out with the app. So we'll get into that later, but that's kind of how we started.
I love that. And I come from the fitness and wellness world as well, which we had talked about offline in a prior conversation. So I totally resonate with both of your stories. I did play tennis as a kid, but took a massive break and came back as an adult player. So our stories are very much aligned, and I think that's why we kind of gelled when we first met. So I'm excited to dig into TennisIQ, the why behind it, which we just heard a little bit of, and what the app actually is and what it can do for our junior players. So who wants to give us kind of the nuts and bolts of what the app is?
Yeah, I'll give you the quick overview, and Jamie's so good at kind of drilling it home to make it super personal to everybody, especially, you know, as we're focusing on the junior players in this aspect. But basically, it was born courtside, and we literally were not only for ourselves wanting to kind of master the mind and the mental side of the game, but we also watched so many people struggling, right? Either forgetting the lesson they just learned, losing confidence mid-match, or getting in their own heads, right? I always say that one point, we say have the memory of a fly, so that the next point can be your fresh point again, right? So TennisIQ was really born from the idea that mindset, recovery, and emotional regulation are all trainable. Really, anyone at any age. So it doesn't matter what age you are, it's something huge you can change. And when we talk about athletics and we talk about sports, we're always training our game, right? We're training our physical game. But the data is so strong on how much of your game is controlled by your mental game. So we can have more joy, more fun, right? These are all data points that we've studied. Tennis is the healthiest sport in the world, right? The racket sports. And to be honest, then we win more. And so both on and off the court, this translates. We just needed a simple tool to track what actually works so that people can apply without being like, oh gosh, I have to meditate all day long, right?
Right. And simplicity is key because we know tennis players, especially at the junior level, they're at various stages of emotional development, various stages of maturity, to be able to understand why it's important to
Yes.
work on the mental side of the sport. But as we learned in a very recent episode of this podcast, the mental game is such a huge part of being successful in tennis. And so any tools that we can bring on board to give ourselves that edge are going to be great and can make a big difference. Jaime, talk about, like, from a personal standpoint, what you were seeing in your own tennis that made you realize, hey, there's a piece missing here and I can solve this problem.
Sure. So that's exactly what happened is Alli, we sat together and she said to me, what is one of your biggest pain points in anything when we were deciding to come up with business? And I'm like, well, in tennis, actually, I really get mad that my memory isn't that well when I have to recall what happened in a match against somebody, maybe I played them a month ago and I forgot maybe a sneaky little trick that they had up their sleeves. And so I might play that person again and, not having that recall until they, burn me a couple times. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. She did that to me last time. And I know this would apply to anybody in any age group. And, we do get busy, and even kids with better memories than us, it would be helpful to have a little journal. Take just a few minutes after your match or our matches, that just to write down what happened and maybe journal about your own, what you did right, what you could have done better, what you felt like you weren't great at that day. And then same about the other person for that recall. And that was the thing that I talked about for a while. And actually being captain of my team, my teammates all as a gift gave me a personalized journal with my name on it, super pretty color, to go into my bag. And do you think I would take the time to write and then have to go look for it in the book? Like, oh, what happened? Even if I was good at taking notes, I did it once or twice. And those few times I did it, I was so grateful to have that information. So I was playing this person. I'm like, this is amazing. So then, when we were brainstorming a business, I'm like, listen, if I could just have it on my phone that's by my hip all day long, and, it goes, unfortunately, we all are, including juniors. If I can just talk into my phone for a minute on my way to the car, or, while I'm sitting in line waiting for something, and have, the access to that, so that next time I go recall it, I just say, hey, remind me. That's just going to make my life so much easier and really help that pain point of the memory that, I'm losing.
And it really is time, right? It's who has the time to add one more thing to their day when they're barely getting health and wellness in any aspect. So the easiest way you can do it is the most efficient is going to be the most acceptable.
Right. And listen, we have talked on this podcast before about the importance of journaling, the value of journaling, and there is value in sitting down with a physical piece of paper and a pen and writing things down. And we understand that, that's how our brain really cements things, and there is value in that. But as you said, it's all well and good to have that hard copy journal, but if you're not religious about sitting down and recording thoughts and nuances of matches and little tips, then it's not going to serve a great purpose for you. And especially with kids, we know getting them to actually pick up an actual pen and put it to paper when they do everything on a keyboard now is really difficult. So, Alli, can you kind of walk us through what the app incorporates and how players can actually use it post-practice post-match, pre-match, and during tournaments to trigger these memories that can serve them during their competition?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we'd be here all day if I went into all the nitty-gritty that I love. But I'll say for junior players, I always think of kind of that emotional roller coaster, right? Either the overthinking or the ruminating about the mistakes, forgetting whatever happened with the lesson, just the pressure that comes with that. And, when Jamie and I say the older you get, the more responsibility, the more factors are in your life, the less bandwidth you have to bring new stuff on. So to get a junior player to journal every day and really understand the benefit of it's very difficult. So for the app, as much as I'm like, I don't want kids on screens all day, every day, it's so important to meet people where they're at, right? So it's not just an app, it's really a whole player optimization tool so that not only can we track our own performance and others' performance, but we can kind of get that mental edge and truly round out what we're doing that day and what we're putting our purpose into. So from the beginning, we have so many different modules. It can be as simple as you're driving to tennis, say for the junior players, mom's picked you up from school, you had school on your mind, you open your phone, you have those 700 snaps from Snapchat, right? TikTok reels, all the things going on. And did you know the average human thinks 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day?
Wow.
So think of all that, right? If you could just even wrap your mind around that. So what the ideal way to use the tennis app, kind of like just going through the day, I always say like the user journey is in that car, we put on a driving mindset. So if you are the actual person playing tennis, you're not looking at your phone, you're just putting on your driving mindset where it clears space in your mind. So we're no longer thinking about the test or what your mom is hammering you on from what happened in school that day. And it's more clear space because you would never go warm up for a tennis match without doing your dynamic warm up, right? You'd never, without doing some sort of physical warm up, you wouldn't walk into a match. But we really need to do that on the mental side too, right? Clear space from what we've been thinking about all day so we can hyper focus on what is present in here and now. So ideally, a pre-match mindset module is ideal. But the other fun is if we've played together, at least in the past, I'm going to just journal right into my phone and just say, hey, she's great at the lob, try not to rush the net, blah, 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 right? So I'm going to say what your strengths are, and then maybe what I think you have that my strengths could do better against. When I call it up again, I literally say, hey, I'm playing Lisa today. Remind me what to do. And our AI built-in human trained brain, which is all health and wellness database trained, will remind you of everything I knew about you at the time that I might have forgotten because I have a million other things going on. I've now cleared my brain with some sort of either mindset module or just journaling into the app. And now I can walk out onto the court. I can even say, hey, it's an hour before game. I'm hungry. What's the best fuel that I can put in my body right now? It is pretty much everything I've learned.
Along with the
all of our
recipe.
data. Yes. Yeah.
You say, and then how do I make that? What's the grocery list for that? Like
Yep.
it can get really nitty gritty.
So from me,
Seriously, I didn't realize y'all had built all that in as well.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
so
yeah.
cool.
that was the wellness end. So, and I think people think wellness sometimes is mindset, right? And if you think of really changing your mindset, it's what you consume in your body, what you consume in your mind, right? What you're exposed to, the stress you're under. So it has a lot of amazing capabilities that we just don't have at reach that are reliable. A lot of things are people's opinions on the internet or TikTok.
Yes, this isn't coming from Google, right?
Yes.
You're not our coach isn't just pulling from anywhere, right? This was really methodically thought out, intentional journals and in the best tennis journals, health and wellness, ones that really align with a holistic whole approach to the athlete. And so we certainly, we want to make sure that people realize that this isn't just like this typical, what would Siri say?
But not only that, it's also not boring because if you think we were whole health and wellness, it would be boring. So what the junior players will love and what we did take out of the TikToks and whatnot of the world are streaks. So maybe it's not as fun to do a journal or a mindset prompt. It's required for a lot of college students and required for a lot of academies, which I think is great. We're working with an academy now that will be requiring it through us, which is amazing. And what that means is, oh gosh, I must have something wrong. They've called in the mindset coach, right? So sometimes that's a negative connotation to juniors. And instead, we've gamified it a little bit, right? So however many modules you take the time and do, if you've journaled with your coach, if you've done, and it really just brings you to be able to have an internal coach. I mean, there's even players that are leaving their lesson or with their coach, and they don't want to tell their coach what happened personally in their life, right? So let's tell it into our completely yours, can't be shared with your coach, AI coach, and get some good, solid advice from not only mindset or physical, but total health and wellness. So ideally, pre-match module of a sort, specify what you need that day. You can even say, hey, I have a little bit of a headache, and it will give you a great suggestion for hydration, etc., to move from there. Use any of the information you've already fed it to get a super brain, I call it, in the tennis space, and then help you drop into tennis mode. And I always wanted to name it tennis mode.
We probably should have. Now that
I loved it.
Right.
Everyone was like, really? I'm like, I love tennis mode.
Our first name was 40 Love Mindset, and we weren't quite being seen in the App Store as a tennis app. It was more of a dating app. So if we did,
funny.
we probably would have been better off
right up there.
Yeah, being seen instead of, but we love our tennis IQ now.
I do have to say, for the junior space too, which I thought was so funny when I was like, I love tennis mode, is Bluey. Do you guys remember Bluey? Your kids are too old.
No.
Mine are too old, yes. But I know who it is.
But I know who it is too. So now, and it's been on for a decade, but there's this show Bluey, and the kids, when the parents do something that, they deem inappropriate, like, oh gosh, sorry guys, we didn't mean to, be so upset about something, the kids earn a dance mode, and they have anywhere they want in public. They tap their parent, say dance mode, and the parent has to dance.
Oh,
so I'm loving that you just drop into things, right? Drop into tennis mode.
I love it.
Yeah. That's so fun. So let's dig in a little more to how a junior player can specifically use this. You're talking about the ride to the match court, but is this something they can use during practices as well, or is this more focused specifically on the actual competition?
So we always say it's endless. It really is how you want to use it. And I think one of our challenges is letting everybody know in totality how you can use this app. We'll see, that some people.
Well, I'm giving you the platform to share that right now.
Some people extensively use the AI coach because it is so nice to have someone to answer. Your coach can only be there a certain time of the day, right? And it costs a lot of money to keep more time in with a coach. So really, I think kind of the best way a junior player, and you can kind of have your end of it too, can utilize this is to one mindset module a day. It's 3 minutes of their life. And over time, we're going to build that consistent pattern to be able to handle life, perceive your game as a little bit less stressful so that your body can effectively work, right? So all the skills you learn physically can basically come through a lot stronger when you're not overriding yourself on a mental game. So I would say that 3 minutes a day, pick a mindset module and get anything out that you're ruminating on, because if we look at, psychology of mindset, it's the ruminating that destroys us. So if you have a bad point, that can snowball. But if that snowballs into your entire match and you ruin that, and entire day and you ruin that, and then the next day we have a challenge. So it really is the ability to detach from the negative emotion and get back to be grounded.
So give us an example of a mindset module. What would that look like?
There's anything and everything. So one could be breath work. So let's talk about those, 25 seconds between each serve. And it seems like such a short time, but if we take a few of those seconds just to take some breath, right? I always say, and all kids can get this example, but like, picture your caveman and cavewoman self. So there you are, Elise, we're shredded because we're cave women, right? And all of a sudden you are running from the lion because the lion jumped out from the bush, right? You're very stressed. In the US culture, that is, hey, you're in a competitive sport. You have a lot of work to do. You're supposed to have the most perfect lawn and car and babies. And so there's a lot that comes in where we're always living in that kind of fight or flight mode. However, if we just take that breath, right, we've been shown to reduce our cortisol and adrenaline in the moment, we get out of fight or flight, because fight or flight, your body's just trying to survive. We're not remembering the lesson. We're not able to stay loose enough to hit the ball with any sort of spin. There's nothing we're doing that is going to improve our game besides having a little bit more edge of motivation. After that, there's a lot of destruction that happens. So if we can take that 5-second breath to reset and start each point new, that's going to be huge. So there's breath work in there. There's breath work for when you need to calm down. There's breath work for when you need to stay high. And there's all sorts of lessons. I find breath is great because it's free and you can do it anywhere. But there's also modules that talk you through, if you maybe had a loss, what the lesson is. There's modules that talk you through, you had a win, how do we use it? So really, however the game or the match played out, you can utilize that immediately.
Yeah, there's also
Alli,
match.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say this post-match reflection is one of the good ones too. Whether you win or lose, if you do take a few minutes, we know it's difficult to take a few minutes, but that is in there too. Because one of the big things is I find that a lot of times it's like the match is over and it's like, but that's really when some of the good work should be getting done, is after the match, right? And reflecting on it. So that's.
Well, and one of the things that you guys have done to make it so simple is it does have voice to text capability. So it's not like you have to sit there and type in with your thumbs all of these thoughts that you're having. You can actually just dictate it in, much like a physician dictates notes after they see a patient, and the app captures that. And then I guess your AI, in which AI kind of goes over my head, but the AI then takes all of these things that you've fed into it and starts to see patterns and starts to formulate advice to send back to you to help you in the next instance where you're opening the app. So I think, Jaime, one of the things, and I think I told y'all this when we talked beforehand, I'm the captain of my tennis team too. And one of the women that I play with does keep an actual paper journal, and she writes down, every match. She writes down tendencies of the opponent and, who played which side and what hand do they play with and strengths and weaknesses and yada, yada, yada. And I used to think she was a little nuts because I'm like, this is women's league tennis. Like, you are putting in way too much effort here. Let's just go have fun out there. But for her, it is exactly what y'all were talking about. It is a calming mechanism for her because it's a way to take control over something that sometimes feels very out of your control.
Right. Well, and I wonder how, I know she sounds, pretty intense with her game, but how popular is she? Because I would bet that people are going over to her before their match, going to play Susie, and said, hey, what are your notes on her? Because believe me, I have those people at my club too. And I'm always like, so tell me everything. And I'm always in a panic, or used to be in a panic 3 minutes before I find out, oh, I'm playing this lady. Karen, can you tell me what happened? And she's like, hold on, in her notebook. And now, I don't need to rely on that. But I mean, it is funny because I've seen it a few times with those girls that have their notebooks, and God love them, because it's just not in my DNA, but they have become very popular with, right before a match.
That's so funny.
It's funny. I always say, I am not the girl who has the notebook. How many notebooks I've started because I was going to take notes on things, right? And then I didn't have it with me, so I started a new one. I have a lot of notebooks. Yes.
Or the little scraps of paper because you don't have your notebook with you.
Bottom of your bag.
If I could right now, there's still scraps of paper before this app that are sitting there, probably because I want to put them in the app and I need to take them in it. But yeah, I have those of, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys are working with some junior academies and really trying to make this part of the academy experience and the junior development experience. What type of feedback are you getting so far from coaches, from players, and from parents?
So I love this question because it hit home to us when we started in the junior space where we were like, oh, we didn't even think of that. So we had one head of academy say, I know mindset. I'm trained in it. I have done this. I just can't get the kids to do it. And I can't get them to do it consistently. Please help. And so that's kind of where we were like, all right, we need streaks, right? So this is not only is it something extremely healthy for them to do, it actually lightened the load on the coaches on things that kids would be either complaining about or asking, what seemed irrelevant questions that day where they were in the match. But now it's something consistent where the coach can just say, hey, show me your streaks, and see that they had a 7-day streak from the last time we saw them a week ago. So it's a really big accountability factor. And if you look at mindset or anything you want to do, if you do it consistently, you'll always have success, right? If you want to go to the gym to lose weight and you go to the gym consistently, you're going to have success. Mindset's the same, right? That same training, if you do consistently, you'll have a lot of success.
And so when you say streak, sorry, let me just interrupt real quick. When you say streak, you're talking about how many days in a row they open the app and actually input information?
Yes. It could be watch a module. It could be use the coach to input information. It could be a myriad of things, but it's tracked differently for them. And it shows them, it's still like, I want this to be your safe spot to go learn, right? I even have kids that will say, I learned something on TikTok that they said was healthy. And I asked my coach in TennisIQ to confirm it. And it was totally debunked. I was like, we're like Snoops or Snopes, whatever that is now.
Yeah.
Well, one thing is with streaks too, is just it's trendy, right? So when we're dealing with the kids, like maybe we wouldn't care as much about this, but when you're dealing with the juniors, they're already, if they're doing Snapchat, they're already doing streaks. I have 3 teenagers in my home. Yep, my kids have Membean they have to do Duolingo, and then they're on Snapchat. And it's all about the streak. So it's already a behavior that they're doing. And so it's just kind of reinforcing that. It's not new to them where, I'm not motivated by streaks, right? But they are. And then God forbid they have to go away to camp and they can't have their phone. Who's going to maintain their streaks? It's like the only thing they care about. So knowing that and talking with some of the owners of clubs and the coaches, they're like, this is how, it's kind of a no-brainer because it's already part of the behavior.
And have y'all talked to some of the junior players that are using the app to get feedback and input from them?
Yeah, so we just actually had one college D1 say they were required to journal and they were having a hard time with the paper journals. And again, boys remembering it to do these things, putting it in the right place. So it was so fun to hear him say what we were like, hey, this is what it's going to help with, right? And confirm that, where he's like, it's so easy. I always have my phone. I can put the journal in. My coach is pleased. I got out what I needed to get out. No one's going to find that journal and be like, whoa, this is what you said about yourself. So if people actually heard out loud what you say to yourself in a match, we'd be not proud of it.
Well, but like you said, sometimes you just have to release it. You have to put it somewhere so that you're not holding on to it. And this was years ago. I was at a high school tennis match, and the high school tennis coach, who was not a tennis coach, he just was the person that the school hired to coach the tennis team. He would stand outside the fence, and whenever he would hear a player start with the negative self-talk, he would repeat that back to the player through the fence. And I was like, oh my God, what is this guy doing? Because I didn't hear the player, I just heard the coach. And I'm like, this guy is horrible. Like, these parents need to, get this guy out of there. And I talked to him after, and when he explained to me what he was actually doing to shine a light on what this sounds like, you can't talk to yourself this way, but you have to get it out. And tennis is a sport that punishes getting those things out in the moment. You have, if there's an official and they hear you say something negative, or you bang your racket, or, send a ball flying, you're going to get a point
Bench.
penalty,
Mhm.
right? So we've got to, and this was always something that my son complained about in junior tennis, because he was always very emotional on court. And he's like, I've got to be able to get it out of my system some kind of way. They won't let me say it. They won't let me do it. Like, how do I handle all this emotion that's boiling up?
Very expensive to break a racket.
It is very expensive, and my son learned that lesson as well.
Oh, I bet I have one of those.
Yeah, but it is true that it's not healthy to keep all of that inside, and our sport as a whole does encourage just, you got to set it aside, but it doesn't. We've never been good at teaching players how to do that, and the journaling after the fact is great, but I know you can't have a phone on court with you now. That's one of the rules. But I'm hoping that there's going to be some kind of way that mid-match kids are going to be able to either, I don't know what the answer is for them to be able to jot it down, or Alli's itching. Okay.
I'm like chomping at the bit on this one. So I always think of it as a pressure cooker, right? Have you ever pressure cooked something?
Yeah.
And you release it and all the steam comes out and it is dangerous, right? Or it can kind of like let the steam out slowly over time. So two ways I always look at this when it comes to that. We don't necessarily need to say, okay, I need to break this racket in order to get it out so that I feel better. Like all of a sudden the steam blows, right? But we do need to get it out. So it's two ways we do it from just a psychological standpoint, where we take the tool to reframe things so that the pressure cooker doesn't build so high, right? We don't react so strongly. So it's really fun where this player, for example, could say, hey, I'm playing Jim and he always, triggers me and I get so mad. What can I do? And now we can learn the tools that we don't let that pressure get so high that we don't have to blow. So, right, prevention is key in anything medical, right? Any health thing. But then on the flip side, letting that steam out later is still going to help. But so is, if you talk into the coach, right? So is a good night's sleep. So if you look at sleep, the first half repairs your physical body. The second half downloads things that happen for the day, rationalizes it, helps you literally undo some tissue issue in your tissue damage, right? That you've held on to. So it really is in totality, when we're looking at mindset, these small things that you can do that add up to make a huge difference, so that there is no longer like, look at, there are probably 10 to 20 super famous tennis players that say, I had to work on my mindset so much and now they're at the top, right? Because they did want to blow before. So it's not necessarily that we have to always take that pressure cooker off immediately, but we do have to learn how to get it out at some point.
Love that. Love that. All right, ladies, talk to us about where we get the app. Is there a price attached? And what do we do once we get it?
So we are downloadable in the App Store. So in Apple App Store, and you can look up TennisIQ app, and you can download it. You get 7 days free. So that is just for you to try it out. There's a little bit of onboarding, which is really important.
I was going to say that. That's so fun.
There's a lot of questions that can be asked. And then what that does is it really personalizes your coach, so that it will, we will not have the same coach. None of us will, because we will do that onboarding. And then the coach will draw its advice based on that. So that's super important. And I never want anyone to skip it, even if it says skip.
Yep. You do have the ability to skip it, but if you put in your information, you could say, hey, my elbow keeps flaring up. You could say things. And then when you ask advice that has nothing to do with your elbow, the coach will say, don't forget this with your elbow. So don't forget to do this. So it's really personalized, not only from a health and mindset, but your goals too.
And we, yes, currently we have a price of $9.99 a month, or yearly is
$99.99.
And we are happy to give a discount to your listeners.
Yes.
So we will give you our promo code, which will
It'll be in the show notes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be in the show notes on
Yeah, we didn't come up with
parentingaces.com. So
the-
make sure
Yep.
to check that.
We'll be happy to, give a 50% off.
Yeah, it's
for that.
worthwhile for everyone to try it, even if it's for the 7 days. I always say, learn something, right? What we do in life as humans is we're negative, right? We're designed that way so we stay safe, so we can run from the lion. But it's so like weightlifting off your shoulders, not only in tennis, but in life, to just have some easy tools to use every day, right? If you dive into like, how do I get healthy? And you look at all of the internet can offer, you're down a rabbit hole that's exhausting and we're not going to do anything. So it's really nice to have a very tennis specific, mindset specific goal of let's get 1% better every day.
Yeah. And then coaches also are using this app. So it's not just, we encourage coaches because they can also see the benefit for their athletes, but we actually have a Division I college coach who uses our app for when he's out scouting, and he writes about the players that he's watching. And so that's pretty interesting that he, a fun way of using the app. So this is, coaches, parents, some would be into it, and obviously the athletes.
Yeah, and just to read it back to parents too, is we've all been there in the car when, our child loses, and immediately you want to be like, maybe if you didn't go down the line that last, blah, 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 and you're taking the driver's seat and they're reliving it, as opposed to like, let's just put on a post-match mindset. Let's let the steam out of your steam cooker right now happen, right? And then maybe we'll talk about it after, but we always want to fix it as parents. Fix, right?
No.
As opposed to kind of give that health space for them to decompress first. So I do find that really helpful for parents, because when it's on in the car, everybody benefits. Everybody has to listen.
I love that. And we talk about that quite a bit, that car ride home. It can be kind of brutal. And any tool that we can incorporate as parents to help our children manage that ride home better, and more importantly, to help ourselves manage that car ride home a little bit better, is a great benefit. Okay, so the app is available in the Apple App Store, not for Android yet, just for iOS.
If you have Android, I would just do the web version. So we do have a web version, which would just be tennisiq.app. And you can go straight to that on your Android. You can do it on your computer if you're a computer person. My mom always says, I need to type it in on my computer after. Then it's much easier than just, talk to text for her. So really available to anybody at this point. And we're next working on different languages.
Yes. And we're available in every country. And of course, we have social media, all of it. So follow us for all the fun.
Yeah. And we'll have all those links in the show notes for the app download, for the discount, for the web version, and for all your social media, and encourage everybody to take a look at this, because what an invaluable tool for our kids, for us, for the coaches out there as well, to better manage all of these little nuances that can make or break our ability to reach our goals in the sport, as parents, as coaches, etc. So ladies, thank you so much for taking time. Thank you so much for coming up with this. I think it's brilliant, and I can't wait to see what y'all add over time, because even since I last talked to you, there are more features than there were then. And I think this is just brilliant. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, we appreciate your support. We really
absolutely. Absolutely.
And being new, any feedback, let us know, because we do like trying to build this and make it more applicable for everybody.
Yeah, we're learning as we go, and happy to have any advice from an expert who's been around and been on the field, on the court a lot with kids and juniors. So, if you ever have any thoughts, bring them our way. We would appreciate it.
Can we share your email address? Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Or is there like a feedback email that you'll want to use?
On the website as well, and on the App Store as well, but absolutely for the email address. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it. To my audience, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on Parenting Aces.